We got a little swept up in election fever, but
Election fever got to you, did it?
yeah, we were watching polls coming in as they were going, making our predictions.
Oh, yep.
We didn't expect the MK party to come third, but they did. And that was
I kind of feel like it came out of nowhere.
yeah, it did. I mean, if you, I'll send you the website link. The most drastic flip was KZN. Like I'd never seen anything like KZN, bro.
Please send it to me.
I'm gonna send you
I've seen it, but
the News
just send it to me.
24. So if you click on this link, I don't know if it'll show you the 2019 results. Because okay, hold on, let me go into KZN. Because you first got to look at the 2019 results, and then you click on 2024. It's wild. Okay. Here, let me send you this. There we go. So you gotta check out the
News 2024. Okay.
no, go. Yeah, okay. That's the what is that? Okay, yeah, cool. So this is KZN in 2019, right? Those are all the green is obviously KZN, and then the red is the IFP, because obviously the IFP's got a very strong base in KZN because it's a very Zulu
IFP was
majority
Zulu.
Yeah, and also they're a very
Zulu
Zulu party, but they're rather conservative, but they have a very strong showing obviously in KZN. Now, so that's 2019, right? Now click on the 2024 tab just above, right on the right there.
Wow. To be fair, the IFP did hold strong.
They held strong because the ANC, because the IFP voter base would never vote ANC, and they would never vote MK. They're always going to be pretty partisan towards their base. But look at that flip. Now, the biggest craziness.
100% flip. That is a wild flip.
If you go down to where Durban is, that's the eThekwini municipality, so that's where we used to live. Well, that's the only place anyone ever visits. So you see there where Durban is? Yeah, there.
48%.
Yeah, it is an absolutely wild swing from 2019.
That's 48% from 55%.
Yeah, dude. Insane shit right there.
What?
Yeah. And this is coming from a party that didn't even exist. It didn't even exist until like 2013. Sorry, like 2023. To be fair, they got a legacy, right?
They do, MK, but their legacy is fucking Zuma.
Well,
that's their
legacy is the name. And the popular figurehead or the cult of personality is Zuma.
That is Zuma.
Who, by the way, after all of this win, after getting 15% of the national vote in one election, kicking the EFF's ass, right? This motherfucker denies the election results. Like, on the nose. Yeah, he's like, no, it didn't happen that way. Yeah, he denies them, number one. And number two, he says, even if we do... decide to go into a coalition government, we refuse to go into coalition with the ANC unless, number one, Cyril Ramaphosa drops out. Okay, he's no longer stands for president, and number two, they pardon Jacob Zuma of all of his charges.
Are those the two requirements that they put forward?
Those are the requirements, dude. They don't want to go into the they've literally sitting now, dude, with, I think it's 58 or 56 seats in parliament. They've released official numbers, so they've got 56 seats in parliament. Okay, and the whole idea is not to govern. Like, it's literally just Jacob Zuma on his fucking power fantasy. That's literally all it is.
That is insane.
It is insane to me. So the ANC and the MK, right now, their conversation is definitely not on the table for coalitions. So the next best natural fit, one might think, would be the EFF. And the EFF demands are a little less crazy, but they're pretty much in line with their policy demands, which is that if the EFF goes into power with Jacob Zuma, their biggest one is to start immediately expropriating farmland. That's their main demand.
How do I spell Cyril?
Cyril is C-Y-R...
Oh,
sorry,
C-Y-R.
C-Y-R-I-L, yeah.
Yeah, that's not all I'm
Yeah.
That's wild that they're calling for Cyril to step down.
Yeah, that's what they want, number one. So the EFF, again... So just to state the numbers here, the official numbers are that the ANC are at 39.76%. So that's 40%, right? That is a drop of 17.5 points from 2019. So they've lost literally a third of their voter base. And that third, more or less, has been split between EFF, MK, and DA votes.
Yeah.
Now,
results.
So obviously the ANC.
I know the IEC. I've seen the IEC's.
Yeah,
page.
the numbers. Yeah, the I hate that page, dude. That's the page everyone's using. It is so disgusting. It is.
Why?
It is poorly put together.
Really?
You can't even properly. Yep, dude. Have you been on the IEC page?
I'm
Try and click on any
on
regional district. Are you? Hold on. Now try look at a region and try and see how annoying this shit is.
I mean, this thing is constantly fucking glitching out. But yeah.
Exactly, it's shit, dude. It's I hate this site. The News 24 site is so much better because you can actually zoom in to like an individual ward. So if you go to KZN, you can go to Durban. You can click on Durban. You can see all the wards in Durban. You can even click on individual wards in Durban and see the sub wards. It's like you got so much on this site.
Oh, that's cool.
This is so much better as an interactive map than the IEC map. You check 2024 in eThekwini, bro. Just look how. Now, one thing you got to take for note is that while the ANC is definitely the biggest losers of this election, it's arguable that the DA are one of the biggest winners of this election.
Yeah.
Because if you look at Western Cape, okay, take a look at Western Cape. Not in 2024, just 2019.
Yeah, in 2019. So
see all the municipalities they don't have. They're still, they don't really have all the municipalities.
Yeah, they don't have
2024, they have cleaned the whole thing out.
Oh, it's a clean slate. Holy shit.
It's a clean slate. The DA have finished off the Western Cape. There's no coming back from that. And the whole reason for that is that in the Western Cape, at least, they've capitalized on the ANC loss because the ANC have peeled votes in the Western Cape, not to MK because they don't have a big showing there, but to the PA party.
PA? Who the fuck's the PA?
Now the PA is the Patriotic Alliance. They're led by a guy called Gayton McKenzie. Gayton McKenzie is a name I've heard on Twitter a few times, but nothing too serious up until obviously now the elections. This party nationally has scored around maybe 4 to 5% of the vote, and that's big when you think about just how
far
badly
right South
small
African
parties
party.
do. They're far right, okay, but only when it comes to immigration. All right. In most of what they talk about, you could align them in many ways with the EFF. They're sort of very populist, but their big thing is shutting down the borders. That's what they want to do.
Yeah, their ideology is colored interests. It's
very big colored interests.
Funny enough, colored is considered a slur up here in the UK.
Yeah, I'd imagine, but in South Africa, it's
anti-immigration are their two key ideologies.
Right?
Which it makes
crazy,
sense.
Right?
It makes sense that then they are
so they're very
far
nationalistic.
right and nationalistic, and
so they're very
nationalistic and anti-immigration, and I can't.
They're anti-immigration,
considered right, far right.
Yeah, but they're very big on the concept of social welfare and that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, I think
they're
that's
kind of national
pervasive.
Socialists. Okay, they're quite literally national socialists, but not like Nazi national socialists, just national socialist.
Well, yeah, they don't have the Aryan race piece. Yeah.
Yes. So The DA didn't lose.
There's no eugenics happening in the Western Cape.
No, okay. I promise. No, the DA in the Western Cape didn't peel too many numbers, or the PA didn't peel too many numbers from the DA in the Western Cape, more so from the ANC, oddly enough. But remember, it's national socialism.
So the ANC went down from 31% down to
20%. So that's the PA cutting in there, as you can see, because the DA maintained a pretty similar percentage.
Yeah.
It's more or less
and then you have like a 1% peel to the DA.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now the most interesting part is
Gauteng. The Western Cape is completely blue now.
Yeah, it is. They made huge gains in the Western Cape. Absolutely capitalized on ANC losses in the Western Cape. You can say that the Western Cape is 100% DA locked. Okay, in the same way KZN is now MK locked. Now, the new battleground is Gauteng. So if you take a looky-loo, the DA did not capitalize very well.
The DA have South... in 2019.
This is 2019. Yeah. It's very much the same in 2024.
Very much the same.
Yeah, and the reason for this is that
ANC have lost a large portion though.
They have lost a lot, but now for the first time, you see what I mean? It's gone to the MK because the MK have got quite a bit of a showing in Gauteng.
It's gone to. Oh, it's all gone to MK.
Quite literally split to the MK. But the DA, for all of their bravado, they could not capitalize on this, obviously, in 2019. But in 2024, it's still a tough uphill to climb. But in 2029, my prediction is if that people rally, and if the DA party still exists in 2029, because we still have to talk about the coalition talks, it's very hopeful that the DA could, if everyone rallies together behind them, take Gauteng. It's very possible. It is
possible for them to flip it. Yeah, that's a 10% flip.
It's all they need. It's
in 10%.
Reach.
Yeah, it is. Considering the ANC lost more than 10%, that's 53 down to 35.
Yeah, that's 15. Yeah, that's like 20
points. That's 15. Yeah, like a 19-point flip or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, the PA had a decent showing here as well.
It's gone to MK, Action
PA,
SA, and PA. It's just filtered to like not
these
ANC.
Smaller parties. Yeah,
it's protest votes. It's literally protest votes.
That's all it was. Now, I wish I'd been a bit more staunch in this, because in 2019 I was talking about how the DA could take Gauteng. But when Tiff and I were talking about who to vote for, Tiffany didn't want to vote for the DA. She wanted to vote for one of the smaller parties, which is called Rise SA or something like that. And you know what? I was like, fine, whatever.
Yeah,
vote your
it's protest votes.
It's a protest vote.
100%.
But
you can
in
see
2019,
there's a lot of protest votes this year.
Big time protest. But there's always been. This is just how South Africa goes. Okay, if you don't like the DA, you don't like the ANC, you just park your vote in some small party. But now, I will push as much as I can in 2029, but as many people as possible to vote DA, because now is actually an opportunity for change here in Gauteng. Getting the DA to actually take control of this province.
I love Action. I love Action. SA has 3.6% of the vote. That's fucking great.
But dude, it's hilarious, because nationally they've done so poorly. Their showing was nowhere near
what people expected.
Number one, and number two, the DA's internal polling, because there's that multi-charter party thing. Obviously, they released their internal polling, and one of the things Action SA was very upset about was that the DA constantly had their polling numbers so low. The polling numbers that the DA had internally kind of matched how people ended up voting, because a lot of people were saying, the DA, they're going to lose so many votes, they're going to be like 15% of the national vote. Now, the DA had their strongest showing in this election than any election prior, if you count percentages and how many seats they won. In terms of voter turnout, I think everyone kind of lost out this election. Voter turnout was a little bit lower.
It was pretty low. Vote
Yeah.
turnout was below 60%.
Yeah, well, it says there it's at 61.9.
Vote
So
61.9.
yeah.
Okay, 62.
Yeah.
Okay, I saw it before it was
So
completed. It's counting.
if we don't flip Gauteng, the least we could do, if you click on Johannesburg specifically, it's possible that the DA could flip Johannesburg, and that would be a massive flip because it's 5 points within reach. Like it's
Yeah.
literally 5 points within reach. Okay, 6 points, but still. Okay, 8 points. Never mind. Fuck, dude. When I was looking at the votes tallying in, it was around 70%. The DA and the ANC were like neck and neck, and then obviously the DA pulled away. Well, the ANC pulled away.
Which makes sense. The NC would.
It makes sense because obviously Soweto is where a lot of the population does live. And you want to know something interesting? You see all those little red dots?
It's EFF.
Those are Those are universities.
Oh, really? Is this Wits?
That's a university.
This is fucking Wits. It is Wits.
That's their voter base, bro.
No, that makes sense though.
Yeah, well, of course it makes sense.
That does make sense. Your students are definitely your more socialist individuals.
They're more socialist.
But I love that. That is really funny. Oh my god.
This is why I'll keep saying the EFF are going to fall from grace after this election because number one, you need a base, okay? You need a fucking base, and the MK have that base, and they have that base in an entire fucking province, okay? They flipped a singular province like in the most insane way ever. Like it literally just went from a non-starter party to being like the leading party of like KZN by like 20 points. It was madness.
Yeah. Wait, let's go to KZN then.
I just feel like that was the biggest craziness.
2019, KZN was 55% ANC.
Yeah.
To be fair, this was Zuma, so the Zulu people who are primarily in KwaZulu-Natal.
2019, or you mean
voted.
2014?
No, 2019.
2019 was Ramaphosa.
Oh, it was Ramaphosa. Sorry. Wait, then 2014.
Zuma was ousted out in 2018.
Yeah. You're right.
So you will see here in 2019
65% down to
much
55%.
better in 2014 because they had a Zulu president. The ANC had a Zulu president, which means the IFP didn't have much of a big old showing because I hate to say it, and people find this to be racist to say for some reason, but I say it quite staunchly. I'm pretty convinced that the Zulus vote pretty tribally. It's their man, it's their guy, you know. Why is it the case?
The king can do what he wants.
Yeah, but look at it. I mean, why is it the case that the IFP do so poorly during elections when there's a Zulu man who's the head of the ANC, but whenever it's not a Zulu guy, like
as soon as there's a 5%.
I mean, bro,
increase.
Just look at the 2004 election. Okay, that's when it was Thabo Mbeki. Okay, just look at the start. See, now if you go to 1999, the IFP actually won KZN. So if you zoom out, because 1999 doesn't it? Yeah, you see that. Yeah.
Wow, that is actually pretty insane.
So I can tell you, KZN is not a...
Yeah, they are. It's the Zulu people voting together.
It's the Zulu people voting together. That's what it is. It's very tribal. The ANC will always have quite a strong base in the north. So Limpopo and the northwest. Also the Eastern Cape.
The thing is, you calling it tribal, I think, people will attach to it negative connotations.
It should do, because it's very reductive. There are obviously a lot of reasons, notwithstanding tribal reasons.
It's the people voting as a
group, you know. I think it's fair to say that
they're a cultural group within South Africa that are voting together. It's just
unfortunately,
and I guess you can reduce that to a tribe.
The thing about the IFP is that Mangosuthu Buthelezi, he was never a populist figure. He was always a very hardline, staunch conservative figure who obviously fought for rights and stuff, but had very different views on how the Zulu people should be, leading themselves. Whereas Zuma was a strong populist figure who had been the president for just under 10 years, and who also has a cult following in KZN. So all it needed was a cult of personality to start their own party within a province that loves them dearly. And I suppose, the rest is history.
So Mangosuthu Buthelezi was in office from 1994 to 2004, so for 10 years.
Yeah, as the
president
as the
of
head
the
of IFP.
IFP. Other political affiliations is to the ANC Youth League.
Yeah, minor affiliations. Remember, if you think about it, all of these factional parties like the EFF and the MK are all previous ANC
They're ANC
stalwarts.
factions, yeah.
Yeah.
It's ANC factions that have developed into their own unique party.
And it's weird because no one has been able to split the ANC vote.
But the ANC itself.
But the ANC, sure. But no one has been able to conquer or to break the ANC as much as the MK party has. Like, this is a
yeah, because the IFP lost 10% from 2009 to 2014. If you were to count 2004 to 2014, that is a 20%
drop.
24%.
I wish we had more details for 1999.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
But unfortunately,
it
only goes.
And then Zuma comes through.
And Zuma comes through, and then Ramaphosa comes in.
45%.
Yeah.
Well, you have Zuma as head of the MK.
Yeah. Now Zuma again as the MK head, no longer an ANC factional leader.
Yeah. And the whole Zulu people, all the Zulu people have rallied behind him.
Yeah, except for those two little municipalities down in the south, which seem to hold strong ANC. But I suppose they're the closest to the Eastern Cape, so.
Yeah. That's a wild swing, dude. It truly is.
Yeah,
it is incredible how much MK. It just shows you to what degree a portion of the ANC was the Zulu, is like how strong the Zulu people are as part of that ANC bloc, as a bloc of the ANC.
It's true, but at the end of the day, the new thing that needs to be is the coalition. There is no way forward for the ANC without support from at least an extra 10 to 20% of the parliament.
Yeah.
So how it's going to look is one of two ways. Number one, the ANC enters into a coalition with another few parties to get their majority. The most likely at the moment, believe it or not, is the DA. Now, remember when I said that after this election, I believe that
it is conditional, though.
It is very conditional. The DA coalition is extremely conditional. But John Steenhuisen, who is the head of the DA, has said openly that he was very willing to work with the ANC because his number one thing is to stop what he calls the Doomsday Coalition, which is a coalition between the EFF, the MK, and the ANC. He says that would be far more disastrous than the DA taking a political hit and going into coalition with the ANC.
That is true, though.
It is very true. It is the best out, and I said this when we discussed the elections about a month ago. I said this, that the best possible outcome is a DA ANC coalition, but I didn't think that would be possible until I saw the demands from the other two parties, the MK and the EFF, and these demands seem to be very, very extreme. And it doesn't look like someone like Ramaphosa, or at least Ramaphosa's team, would be willing to in any way concede to those demands. So unless the MK of the EFF decide to stop dancing around like idiots and make, you know, I mean, the EFF is, funny enough, the more rational party in these demands. Um,
With the
it would be,
nationalization of land.
well, it's more rational than, saying, well, if you don't pardon me and
Oh wait,
resign.
sorry, yeah. Cyril to step down and the national pardon. I forgot about that.
And a national
piece.
pardon. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? It's literally a shakedown, bro. Like,
No,
come
it
on.
is. It
At
is.
least the EFF
It is.
are like, hey, here's our policy.
Ironically, it is Zuma doing a shakedown of
It
the
is a
ANC.
shakedown.
It's
exactly
the
what's going
Zulu
on.
people being like, listen here, motherfucker. Like with a spear to your heart, you will accept
Well,
these
quite
terms.
literally. I mean, look at their logo. It's literally a
It's
Zulu
literally
warrior with a shield.
a
Like,
Zulu warrior. I want to south. Let's bring it up. I want to bring up a big. Yeah. It's literally a Zulu warrior. Like, you can't get any more blatant than that.
so I thought this would be such a funny thing if this actually happened, and I think this is kind of unlikely. But let's say this happens.
It's the
'Cause I
spear
said it.
Zulu for spear of the nation.
Yeah, I mean, bro, these guys are,
Which makes sense. That is because the Zulu people are a warring tribe.
well, I mean, if I were to be asked to give a list of the top 3 best strategists of all time, I would say obviously Julius Caesar number 1, and then number 2 Napoleon, and number 3 I would easily say Shaka Zulu. I mean, that man was a fucking
He was a beast. A fucking
he was a
titan,
beast. He
dude.
managed to conquer all of Southern Africa and became such a threat that even the British Empire struggled to fight him.
Yeah.
Like, this man was no joke.
The Zulu Empire, like, subjugated is probably a little bit of a heavy word to use, but ruled.
It's a light word.
It's probably actually a light word to use.
Shaka was a dictator.
Yeah, the other tribes that were more peaceful, for lack of a better word. But that's because the Zulu people fought. They were a warring
very
culture.
proud people, and
Very
they have every
proud
right to be
people.
proud. They have a history of absolute domination of Southern Africa. So,
What's the size?
listen, I don't know how any of this kind of spills into current day, thought, but there is a culture of.
I think that you can't do like a direct one-to-one, but you can. The general story that is brought forward by the that is like told on through the age, I think that has like some inertia or momentum.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, KZN, the shorelines of northern KwaZulu-Natal were very, very treacherous areas. You didn't want to go near there.
I love
if you were
the Badlands. The fuck's in the Badlands?
The Badlands. That's literally just all of the Northern Cape. So the Badlands. This is a play on words. They refer to any sort of desert, arid, very dead area sometimes as Badlands.
Oh, it's Badlands.
Because it's very bad to try and live there or grow things there or do anything there. So it's not that these are where all the bad people live. It's just those are the Badlands.
This is what the Zulu people.
Yeah.
And they originate from KwaZulu Natal, which is
that's
the name.
Yeah, that's where they were. That's where the Zulu Empire began. An absolute force to be reckoned with.
Very interesting.
We obviously, because I grew up in KZN, a lot of our history classes were going to some of these sites. So like Rorke's Drift and Isandlwana and all those places.
I've been to Isandlwana.
Fuck, dude, there's
wild.
There's a lot of history happening there.
Dude, it is so weird going to Isandlwana and like just looking at the ground, and it's like perfectly peaceful. It's lovely. And just to think of like a
This is
massive
what was
battle
happening, yeah.
took place here.
Where the British were, I don't know if the British won this. I think they were completely
No, they were
overwhelmed by
completely
the,
annihilated. The entire
they were
battalion, I think it was
taken out.
annihilated.
I remember that because we climbed that mountain in the distance there. And we took a look over the main battlefield. And then obviously Rorke's Drift was a big one for the Brits because obviously they were able to hold off there. But Blood River, not a good battle for them. Yeah, it was
Well,
it was a rough
Rorke's
one.
Drift happened shortly after Isandlwana.
Isandlwana, yeah.
This was a
we went to
wild
Rorke's
fucking
Drift,
story, dude.
It was literally just that little. We went to that building.
Yeah.
Where they held off. Yeah.
But you had like a company of like 20 men holding off a Zulu.
Holding off an entire
army,
Zulu army. Yeah. Obviously, it helps to have guns, but
it definitely does.
What makes Shaka Zulu so formidable was his battle tactics and how he was able to. I mean, he basically. He didn't invent it, but he perfected the pincer move, where they sort of come in from all sides, and
the
absolutely,
bull and horns.
Yeah, the bull and horns. That's what they called it, and it was a push forward, with the flanking maneuvers coming in from either side, and they could do this with such ease because they built up a horde.
Well, they had the
warriors.
Numbers. Yeah,
they had such big numbers. Yeah,
they could do it. Yeah.
And they were also very disciplined soldiers too. They're to this day the fighting styles and the shield, the grouping together of shields to obviously fight off. It didn't help very well against musket fire, but it was very similar to how the Romans would fend off arrows and spears. They used to do similar sort of movements with those shields like that.
Why their shields?
It was quite literally
the size of their bodies.
Yeah, quite literally. No, it was quite literally the British Empire at its time fighting off an African version of the Roman Empire. It was that level of tactician. Awesome. They weren't dealing with just anybody. They were dealing with a really intelligent warlord. Yeah.
But it's wild to see that the MK party has done so well. And I mean this doomsday coalition, if it does happen, like
people say that I don't know how it's going to happen with the current demands. Like they would have to fucking because Ramaphosa said
to be fair, of all those demands. So, like the nationalization of land doesn't sound as bad.
It's a policy demand.
Yeah,
okay,
it
doesn't sound that bad at all.
The demand of the ANC will never allow go into coalition with MK with Cyril as the president. There's too much bad blood between Jay-Z and Ramaphosa. Yeah.
So that's never going to happen. And Cyril Ramaphosa said in his IEC speech, number one, that everyone needs to, no matter how disappointed they might be, accept the election. I mean, there's been all this talk of rigging, right? Rigging from all over. Oh, dude, Twitter is on fire. And obviously it's the terminally online bunch, but
who have got brain rot from America.
Bro, the brain rot on Twitter is insane. Like, I can compare some of these EFF supporters to literal MAGA types. Like, the level of election denial is like bizarre. Like number one, the DA rigged it in the Western Cape, obviously. So somehow the DA, with their fucking 20%
with their measly,
with their measly 20%,
with their measly 53% of the votes in the Western Cape.
Yeah. Okay? In the Western Cape,
they just got over the line.
They rigged the election to get over the line to literally get 1 percentage point more than last time. Okay, so well done to them. The ANC rigged the election against the EFF so that they could literally lose parliamentary majority
against the EFF.
Or the EFF, and then now even Julius Malema is a sellout now because Julius Malema accepted the fucking election results. Oddly enough,
really?
Julius Malema has been extremely uh, not subtle. What's the word?
Are you gonna say?
Soft.
Are you gonna
He's been
say?
very, yeah. He's not been very fiery in any of this. He's been
Maybe it's
pretty
because
soft.
he wants to build that coalition with the ANC.
Well, I think, yeah, I think number one, he does want to have some power, okay, as being the fourth most popular party now. And number two, I think he has to play a line, because unfortunately for Malema, he lost a lot of his support, I think, or whatever growing support he might have gotten, because of his stances on immigration, number one, and his support for LGBTQ issues.
Wait,
Now,
what?
yeah, I mean, he's been very
Milema's
pro
progressive in
LGBT.
that way? Oh,
Yeah, he's very
interesting.
progressive in that way, which has pissed off a lot of his
That is
base
very
because,
interesting.
yeah, because he never used to be that way. Malema used to be at least 10 years ago, when they talked about Custer Semenya, when that was a big thing. I think Malema's comment was that, in my village, if you to find out if you're a boy or a girl, all we had to do was pull down your pants. Like that was his
That was
comment
it.
on the matter.
Yeah.
But this was fucking 10 years ago. So Malema, the big firebrand, the guy that everyone's so fucking scared of, and which I've always said was a paper tiger, has quite literally, like, the EFF has plateaued, and the support is just, there's no base. That's what I keep saying.
Well, the thing is
Um,
that the EFF are Marxist Leninists.
Number one, and number
Like
two,
they,
their
yeah.
their
Sorry, go ahead.
voter base is young. Okay, their voter base will always be very, very young. And once those young people grow up and start realizing how the world works, they end up, moderating their views quite often. It happens to everyone. Whether you're a Marxist Leninist or a fucking Nazi, your views tend to moderate as you get older. Now, it doesn't always happen to everyone, but this is just a general trend for most people.
Yeah,
Um,
and I guess their main thing
so there's no
is
base there
nationalizing
in
of
terms, yeah.
mines and national
Mines,
expropriation of land,
okay, which
which, to be fair, are quite
are
like
popular.
very contentious issues.
They're contentious issues, but popular amongst quite a few South Africans, mainly the most poverty-stricken, which makes sense. I don't think their entire base comes from young people. I'm sure there are quite a few Marxist-Leninists running around that are, in their 40s.
Yeah,
That's
tear
fine.
down the system. Yeah, rebuild
Tear
it.
down the system 100%. But they will always be the 10% party. They didn't grow. They in 2014 they got 6%. In 2019 they got 10%, and everyone was like, oh fuck, they're gonna just keep growing in power. Well, in 2024 they got 9% again. So now they've plateaued quite effectively. Okay, let's just say
Yeah,
10%. So they're
10%.
basically
Round it off. Yeah,
rounded off to 10%. What was it, 2019? It was, okay, let's say 11%,
20,
but they
20,
lost support, okay?
2019 was like was 11. So
Okay, so they've
they've
lost the support.
lost a
Not
1%.
not a massive percentage of support, but enough to say, hey, this is your peak in
Well, and
terms of a base
they've been knocked down a peg from being third now to being
by
fourth because
forced by
of
the
the
MK.
peeling of
This,
ANC into MK.
yeah. So here's the issues, right? The DA have two options when it comes to this coalition. Number one, they can enter into a formal coalition where the two parties merge and it becomes something like the DANC, okay? Um,
I don't
which
think that won't happen.
that won't happen, number one, because then the DA completely disappear and the DA and the ANC become and this could wash so many votes all over the place in the next election. Um, and also, that would also mean that the official opposition would be the MK,
Yeah,
which
that
is not a.
this won't happen. The merging of
That's
parties won't happen.
so. I don't think these parties are going to merge together. And
Yeah,
if that
the
did
DA wouldn't
happen,
even let that happen.
and the DA wouldn't let that happen. Number one, and number two, if the DA did let that happen, that would mean that John Steenhuisen would need to be deputy president for that to happen. So we would have a Ramaphosa Steenhuisen ticket, quite literally.
That's
Um,
wild.
what can you imagine? This the most generic white guy ever becoming the VP of South Africa. Um, that would just, I don't know. That's kind of perfect, actually.
Yeah. So and then an
And
informal coalition.
now an informal coalition would be more on the likes of that. The DA will support the ANC forming a minority government, but the DA will quite literally act as watchdogs, and they will vote along ANC lines. When the ANC, does normal stuff like whatever. If things get too crazy, the DA will veto and they will decide
And
not
will
to vote.
and then like
But the
pull
DA
them
and the
in
ANC,
line.
yeah. So the DA and the ANC will quite literally become very close to each other as parties, and they will probably, the DA might need to align some of their talking points along with ANC talking points, maybe whatever, and the ANC might have to compromise on a few things, maybe say,
The
okay,
funny
cool,
thing is the DA becomes almost like a rubber stamping.
a kingmaker. Yeah, a rubber stamping kingmaker kind of party,
Yeah.
okay? This is not a good outcome for the ANC, because this means that in many ways the ANC kind of looks like that they're basically sort of
They're powerless.
kowtowing. They're
They're
powerless. Now kowtowing.
in both of these situations, the ANC is powerless and has to kowtow to the other party. Yeah.
Which is fine. The DA have also said that within this, to prevent the disastrous coalition, that they will allow the ANC to have a minority government. So if the ANC so chooses to pass some kind of policy and they say, okay, well, let's see if we can talk to the EFF to get votes, the DA will obviously vote against them. But if the ANC manage to convince the MK or the DA to pass whatever, then that's within, their rights as a party. So that is a kind of like what you consider to be any sort of coalition at the end of the day, where, the coalition is more just like an informal block of parties that vote very similarly to each other.
Or just vote in the direction.
Vote in the direction which
of the
both
policy
parties
that
have.
they agree.
Yeah. That they agree together.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's going to be planning of policy.
It's going to be a fucking ad hoc basis, dude. Jesus.
Which would give the DA a lot of power in Parliament, which would not be the worst thing ever. But the problem is that the ANC would do this, and then for the next 5 years they would govern and whatever. But then 2029 would come around, and who the fuck knows how much the ANC will suffer for doing what they did. Politically, the only way for them to survive.
Suffer from whatever decisions they have made previously.
Yeah, so suffer from the decision of aligning with the DA or anything like that. But their only hope here is to actually form some kind of like coalition where they actually get their acts together in the next 5 years and, bring the economy back around, maybe sort out load shedding, do something about income inequality, who the fuck knows? I mean, these are huge fucking asks, okay? But any form of alliance...
Any form of, like, curbing of corruption or anything like that.
So aligning with the DA for both parties would be politically hurtful in some ways because they're not natural fit partners.
No, they really are not.
They're literally, the DA is literally the official opposition, and they're not opposites. Like the DA, I wouldn't say are right wing. I would say they're more center right leaning.
But in the public consciousness of
DA
South Africa, the ANC and the DA are literally direct competitors.
They are diametrically opposed to each other. Effectively, they aren't. There are a lot of things that they can quite happily work together to pass. They can form easy coalitions all over. So if the DA and the ANC decide to work together...
it's wrong to say that the ANC opposes the DA. It's the other way around. It's the DA opposes
the DA have
ANC.
always opposed the ANC, yeah. Remember that. The ANC don't have much to say about the DA.
ANC doesn't give a fuck, dude.
The ANC don't give a... Yeah. So it's quite literally a case of the DA coming in and curbing their rhetoric around the ANC and being more of watchdogs, and someone like John Steenhuisen being able to pick new cabinet members or help draft a coalition manifesto for the next 5 years, stuff like that. This is the most likely outcome of all of
This
this.
would be the best outcome.
It's the most logical one. Unless the MK and the EFF moderate their views or their demands, this is probably the way things are going to happen.
Which is good.
Which is good.
Which is
It's good.
good.
I think it's good for the DA
Have
to become
the
watchdogs.
DA made any demands of the ANC, like MK and
No,
EFF?
all they've said is that they will work with the EFF. They'll work with the ANC to ensure that this doomsday coalition doesn't happen. That's
Yeah,
their messaging
I've
around
heard
this.
they've put together a coalition board. Was it?
Yes, it's the multi-charter party, which is not. This was something that happened pre the elections. It was basically a mixture of parties from the DA to the IFP to the African Christian Democrats, the Action SA.
Yeah.
They were. So Steenhuisen is walking a bit of a tightrope here because on one hand he's saying, "Hey, listen."
Sorry, go ahead.
So on one hand, he's like, "Hey, listen, guys, the multi-charter party is our thing." Because the main reason why they formed it is because number one, they knew that the ANC would lose their majority somehow, somewhere, and if somehow they were able to altogether these parties somehow get over 50%, they would be able to form a government. This multi-charter party, without the ANC, without the EFF, and obviously the MK wasn't even a consideration at that point. Because whether or not the MK was a factor, it was most likely the case that the ANC would have lost quite a few votes. Not so much to lose their majority, but enough to make it very close. The MK was obviously the game changer.
MK was a fucking wild card that I didn't.
The MK came out of nowhere, bro. They entered into the polls like in March or February, where they started polling them, and we were like, holy fuck, these guys are like at 10%. What the fuck is going on here? But like before then, the concept of the ANC losing their majority was like something that was probably going to be a case. So whether it was the EFF that was going to take most of the votes and a split between the EFF and the IFP and maybe a few smaller parties, or this game-changing
or
MK,
the DA comes out of nowhere
and then somehow steals 70% of the vote from the ANC.
Yeah,
which is unlikely.
That was never going to happen.
That won't happen. So the best that the best that we can hope for is a DA ANC coalition. Which,
there was a video. I saw an announcement by the DA spokesperson saying that they had put together a committee, a coalition committee, and that they were willing to now open to talks with the ANC. Yeah. And it involved like Helen Ziller and some other people. Let's see if I can actually find it.
Well, check this out. This is Steenhuisen's comments. I think this was yesterday. So, I mean, this is pretty much their entire... I haven't seen this, so I don't know what he's actually saying.
Send it my way.
I sent you a video.
On?
Discord.
Oh, yeah.
Good evening, my fellow citizens.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah,
as the dust of the election starts to settle, we can start to see the way forward more clearly. I want to begin this evening by thanking the millions of South Africans who came out on election day to make their mark on their ballot papers. I want to particularly thank the over 3.4 million voters who gave their trust and support to my party, the Democratic Alliance. The people have now spoken, and they have not given an outright majority to any party, thereby demanding cooperation from their political leaders. With this historic result, our country has arrived now at the next great fork in the road of our long and complex history. As we digest the results of the 2024 elections and their implications, I know that many of you are feeling uncertain and anxious about the future. Yet it is important to remind ourselves that we have faced times of even greater anxiety and uncertainty before. Throughout our history, South Africans have overcome seemingly impossible odds together. We have done it before, and we must do it now again. Just over a year ago, I spoke to all of you from the floor of Gallagher Estate, where the final votes are now being counted. Following my re-election as the federal leader of the Democratic Alliance, I committed the DA then to forming a unified opposition bloc that came to be known as the Multi-Party Charter. Throughout the election campaign, I encouraged voters to support the Democratic Alliance and the Multi-Party Charter to ensure that we brought the ANC below 50% and were able to build a collective majority of 50% plus one to form a new government.
Okay, so the multi-party charter was an attempt to take votes away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
How did that charter actually do in the overall elections?
What do you mean?
The multi-party charter. That would be a party in of itself, right?
It would be a party block. So a voting block. So in essence, a bunch of parties together that would all vote on the same lines.
Okay. Oh, so it's not going to show up directly in.
No. It's a block. Which is what I was saying what could be the case between the ANC and the DA, like a voter block, less than a formal coalition.
Yeah, and that's a coalition of DA, IFP, FF Plus, and Action SA.
Yeah, which is nowhere near even 30%, let alone the 50% required.
Yeah.
So Steenhuisen is basically sort of riding this line where he's like, listen, the multi-charter charter is very important to me. But holy shit, the ANC just lost such a huge majority. We could actually,
as DA, like have an impact.
We could, and we could even bring our multi-charter party with us, depending on how they would feel about that.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue.
While the DA grew nationally and in 6 provinces, the charter unfortunately did not collectively achieve majorities at a national or provincial level. Despite this fact, the Democratic Alliance is extremely grateful to our multi-party charter partners, and we remain committed to working constructively with those that are prepared to stand with us in putting the country first at a perilous time. During that same speech from the floor of the DA's Congress last year, I also indicated what the DA's position would be in a scenario where the ANC loses its majority and the MPC falls short. At the time, I said that if the scenario materializes, and I quote, the DA will make it our number one priority and do absolutely everything in our power to prevent an ANC-EFF doomsday coalition from taking power, unquote. In the 14 months since I spoke those words, the rise of the MK party has only added urgency now to that commitment. The reality is that the DA is the only party that foresaw this risk and spoke openly and honestly with voters about it. And so it has now come to pass. Based on current projections, a combination of the ANC, the EFF, and MK have the numbers to take power nationally, as well as in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. The bottom line is that collectively, they have the numbers to take power, whilst the multi-party charter does not. This is, of course, not the outcome that we wanted, but it is the outcome that we must now deal with. The DA will not bury our heads in the sand. We will face up to this challenge, for that is the task of leadership. All through the election, the Democratic Alliance undertook to rescue South Africa from the doomsday coalition. And we will now do our level best to do exactly that. We will do so not only for the people who voted for us, but for the people of South Africa as a whole. As a result, I can today announce that the DA's federal executive has unanimously adopted.
Yeah.
He's making a very clear distinction between saying, "Oh no, we're against the ANC," But now it's the Doomsday Coalition. This is the new terminology. So it's not like, oh, it's ANC, it's ANC. It's now, okay, well, we might actually work with the ANC. So now the new enemy is this coalition.
That is the ANC. So, and that coalition is going to be a faction within the ANC, as well as MK and EFF.
MK, EFF, yeah. So he's now sort of positioning his self to try and show that the DA is more than willing to work with the ANC to prevent that from happening. So that's where this is going.
Which is good. He needs to do that.
Yeah, they have to pivot towards this.
The thing is that there will be a part of the ANC, and the question is how big of a part of the ANC will want to align with MK and EFF.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what Cyril Ramaphosa has to assuage. Because even though there's a lot of ANC stalwarts that are still strong with the ANC, the idea of working with the DA could be disastrous for them. They could literally break them apart, or it might not. We'll just see how willing they are to govern, as opposed to, go the Banana Republic route, which was, literally pardoning a former criminal. Like, my God.
Yeah, this is full on Banana Republic.
I don't know, no matter what the fuck you think of the DA, no matter how much you might not like the DA or not like their party president or whatever, the outcome working with the DA versus working with these guys is so much better. It's more governance. It's more like trying to keep things going as opposed to like insanity.
Yeah, instead of tearing it all down.
And the market's already predicted this. Like when talk of DA, ANC, like coalitions were coming into play, like I think there were predictions that the rand would literally gain like a whole like point against the dollar. Like it would be quite a strong boost for the economy. Yeah, just that coalition being something on the table would be enough.
Yeah.
I can today announce that.
So, yeah,
the DA's federal
the more strategic route, but at the end of the day, a lot of these people, these populists, don't really seem to care too much about the economy.
Well, populists wouldn't.
No,
the EFF wouldn't care about the economy at all, and MK doesn't care about the economy.
Governance. They don't care about. It's just Zuma.
It's just
Zuma. Yeah. It's wild. It is literally, as he says, a doomsday coalition. Like I can't think of another way to call it.
Result. I can today announce that the DA's federal executive has unanimously adopted a resolution to initiate exploratory talks with other parties that share a commitment to the South African Constitution, and to identify options for the formation of governments at a national and provincial level where no party has obtained an outright majority. To facilitate this process, the federal executive has appointed a negotiating team composed of Ivan Meyer, Saviba Gahube, Alan Windy, Tony Leon, and Ryan Coetzee, as well as Helen Ziller.
Yeah, that's the thing I was talking about.
Yeah.
They will facilitate this engagement with other political parties. The purpose of these initial talks will be to gather information of what options are available to the DA as we seek to rescue South Africa from doomsday. This talented and experienced team will report back to myself and to the federal executive, whereafter the party will decide on the way forward. I, however, want to assure South Africans and the people of South Africa that the DA will always act in the interests of people throughout this unprecedented moment in our history. In all that we do, we will be guided by the DA's fundamental commitment to uphold the Constitution and the rule of law, promoting non-racialism, effecting clean, accountable government with zero tolerance for corruption, and building a social market economy that creates jobs. Our engagements with other parties will also be rooted in the 7 apex priorities outlined in our manifesto. These include to create 2 million new jobs, to end load shedding and water shedding, to halve the rate of violent crime, abolish cadre deployment, lift 6 million people out of poverty, triple the number of grade 4 learners who can read for meaning, and ensure quality healthcare for all. My fellow citizens,
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Ensure quality healthcare for all.
Uh-huh.
Does that mean that they are for the bill that Cyril recently passed?
I don't actually know what their full stance on
What's
that
their
is.
stance on that? What's
But
it called? It's the National.
The National Health Institute. It's the NHI. So they want to institute those. Well, Ramaphosa wanted to institute those, and I don't actually know what the DA said about it, but it's interesting that he phrases it the way he does, because it's not necessarily saying, "Hey, we're open towards a fucking national healthcare system," but we do want to ensure that everyone gets healthcare. So it's
Which is saying, probably keep it separate and then overhaul the public healthcare services.
Yeah, system. Yeah.
Out of interest, DA stance. I don't think we'll find it. Oh, here we go. Democratic Alliance. 50 reasons why it will never work.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, you see, the problem is, I think the Democratic Alliance's main issue with it is the single-payer mandate, which means that private insurance companies would eventually fall away, and everyone would literally just be on a national healthcare budget.
Yeah.
Which is all well and good, but unfortunately, the problem is that until that actually fixes itself, it's going to be a disastrous system in the first few stages, without a multiplayer system where people can still opt to choose to pay for, like, let's say if they did something like Obamacare, right, where in Obamacare you had access to Obamacare, you can opt out of it, but you would pay a mandate fine. I think it was like a fee to opt out of Obamacare to get your own insurance. Because I don't know how it works financially, but there's some sort of back pay through taxes, whatever. So you're like mandated to it, and if you don't accept the whatever, you have to pay a fee. I don't know, but that's how it worked. And I'd imagine they do something similar for the NHI initially, but the worry is that it pulls like straight into literally just a national healthcare system without any option.
Yeah. And the thing is that the current public healthcare system in South Africa is absolutely inept, overwhelmed, and corrupt as fuck.
It's super all of these things. Obviously, at the end of the day, you can go to a South African government hospital and you'll probably get decent enough treatment.
And you'll still get treatment. Yeah, you can still
get treatment. But you will wait for it for a very long time. And going to a government hospital is not a fun experience. I don't imagine it's a great experience in any country. But the corruption, cadre deployment within these SOEs, literal state capture, like these are massive issues that we've been having.
That is
where essentially what goes on is that money that's set aside for these institutes are quite literally just become a feeding trough for members who have access to those funds. They just take all that money for themselves.
Well, they just take the money that is earmarked for public institution and spend it on themselves. So,
or another thing that they'll do is that they will take a very expensive tender, and they'll get a big budget for it, and then they'll go for the cheapest tender afterwards, and then they'll pocket that money.
Pocket the difference. Which, to be fair, that budgetary difference, that happens elsewhere. So you have a scandal in the UK where
for sure.
Who was it? It was some Duchess or something. It was being investigated for selling PPE to hospitals.
Yes.
At an inflated rate.
At a massively inflated rate. Well, this is the same thing with that Martin Shkreli guy back in 2016, where he was basically the sole provider of a certain drug, and then he basically just inflated its price to
by 1,000% or something.
Like 1,000% ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he was taken to court for doing that. So
he was sent to jail for that, wasn't he?
He wasn't sent to jail for that. He was sent to jail for securities fraud, which was an entirely different thing. It was kind of like an Al Capone situation where you're this massive ass gangster and everyone knows you're a fucking crook, but then you fucking go away on tax evasion. It's like one of those things.
Yeah. But I mean,
So-
the DA's main points here, and to be fair, South Africa, considering the amount of corruption that exists within the government, I think that's the
Yeah, it's
largest
rife.
disincentive.
It is the worst. Whenever I hear about anything being nationalized, that's why, like, you can't even talk
Anything
about the
that gets
merits of
nationalised.
nationalization on its own in South Africa, because the state capture when it comes to corruption and all of that is just it's so rife that the idea of anything being nationalized is, oh, cool, another feeding trough for these fucking guys to just, like,
Yeah,
pull
well,
money out of.
anything that gets nationalized, even if, as you say, even if there are merits to nationalizing something,
We can't even discuss those because we just know what's going to happen.
those merits, those pros are just so heavily outweighed by just the single con of corruption. When corruption gets solved, we can have those.
We can have that fucking conversation.
The other nationalization conversations, but it's almost the private sector in South Africa is like a ring fence to try and prevent the rot of corruption from just spreading.
From happening, yeah.
Yeah.
Quite literally. Yeah, so that is the situation in South Africa right now. It's still very fresh because obviously our election only happened last week. And the ISC formalized the results on yesterday. All leaders were invited, including the MK leader, Jacob Zuma. He boycotted the event.
Oh, really? Did he boycott the ICC counting event?
Yeah, he did. On Saturday, he even announced that I think that if they were to formalize these election results, that it would be a travesty on the country, and it would only be fair that him and his soldiers, meaning the MK, should, institute a coup or something like that. It's along these lines. Yeah, dude, he's fucking wild.
That's fucking insane to say.
And imagine that you've just emerged as the third strongest party from literally nowhere. You outdid the EFF by a huge
by a
amount,
5% margin, essentially.
By 5% margin in your first election. You're walking in to Parliament with almost 56 seats. Yeah, 14% of the vote and 58 seats in the National Assembly.
Which is stronger than the EFF has ever been. Yeah.
Ever been. Yeah. And you're throwing the biggest hissy fit. Like, you are, like... they're not a party to govern. They're a party to just assuage the bleating snowflakery of Jacob Zuma. Like, that's it.
Well, it's almost... MK is like it's almost like a fever dream.
It is a fever dream.
But they are... I'll be interested to know what percentage of the ANC's Zuma faction has gone to MK, and what that has then resulted in the ANC's balancing, because the balancing of the ANC's factions.
Because if you
back
look
when
at the
Cyril was coming in, and it was either Zuma's wife or Cyril Ramaphosa, it was a 50-50.
It was close.
50-50, too close for comfort.
So what we're referring to is the when Jacob Zuma was ousted out, obviously the party had to choose a new leader or party president, and during that session, it was in Mangaung in 2017. It was called CE17. They voted on who would be the next ANC leader for the upcoming elections, and it was close. It was between Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, which is Jacob Zuma's ex-wife and political ally, and Cyril Ramaphosa. And it was a 48 to 52% split. Obviously, Ramaphosa won.
No, it wasn't that high.
It was high for Ramaphosa. 56.
56 to 43.
Okay. Wait, no. This is William Keys. What are we looking at here?
William Keys.
This is for 20.
Sorry. This is for the most recent one. Sorry.
Yeah,
misinformation.
So, because Willie McKees was the at that time.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's it's fucking Jesus. It's a ball hair, dude.
Yeah, it was a ball hair, dude. It was literally a ball hair.
51.9% to 48.1%.
Yeah.
And this is literally the difference of a kleptomaniac and a slightly lesser
statesman.
And a statesman, but like a slightly
and
lesser
a statesman.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call Ramaphosa
no,
a crook. I think he's a legit businessman. I think he is probably one of the most, next to Thabo Mbeki and Nelson Mandela, he is probably one of the most legit leaders we've had. I think he genuinely is a very intelligent man. And I think he is very similar to Mandela in his way, where he knows how the world works, and he knows that the only way for South Africa to be a major player on the global scale or the global economy is for it to not fall apart and turn to a fucking banana republic. So, there's the principle of that, and then there's the politics of who the fuck you align with. So at the end of the day. Yeah.
This is giving me anxiety just remembering how it went.
Yeah, this was close.
I remember watching it, dude, and I was like, what the actual fuck?
It was so close. So I think, I don't know, because remember, if you look at the 2023, I think it was 2023, the 2023 conference, where it was him and William Keys, the vote was much higher in his favor, about a 4-point swing. So yeah, it's at least a 10-point difference now.
So maybe we could say that like 60% of the ANC is rallied behind Cyril
now. I would say that percentage might be higher, considering that the members of parliament or whatever has been shaken up quite a bit, because the ANC has gone from like 230 to 180 something, or 179. So they've lost.
Cut.
Yeah. People are going to get cut. Now, whether or not these people get cut out of the party is a different story, because, you can be a member of parliament and you can be a behind-the-scenes, very influential member of the party, or you can be a minister. Just out of interest, South Africa has more ministers than England, France, and Germany combined. We have, I think it's a crazy total of almost 40-something ministers. No, I think that's crazy. I think it's like 36 or something ministers like that. So if you think about it, for every...
36 to 28.
Yeah, so for every fucking 10 seats in parliament, you have one fucking minister. It's insane. So that's the percentage there. So we have a lot of, and that is a problem, because that means there's a lot of like people getting paid exorbitant amounts of money to like do fuck God knows who what,
to do next to nothing, but yeah,
to just like sit around and earn money. Fuck, we got a shit ton of ministers. Who's this minister of?
It's good. So yeah.
Who's this? Oh, we got a minister of tourism who's not even an ANC member. Of course, it's Patricia de Lille.
yeah, Patricia. She's part of Good.
So Patricia de Lille is back in the day, like 2009, 2014. She was part of, I think it was called, I can't remember what the party was called. It was some party that was rising in the Western Cape.
It's part of the Good Party, man. Good.
No, it was another party. It was called something else. Something with a P. I can't remember what it was. You might be able to find it there if you look for Patricia de Lille. Anyway, Patricia de Lille used to be in that party, and then her and the DA, when Helen Zille was head of the DA, they merged together and became like a coalition. And then she became a staunch member of the DA party, Patricia de Lille. And then there was obviously a falling out between her and, I think it was Musi Maiman. Because Musi Maiman was the interim, well, not interim, but he was the leader of the DA between 2013 and 2018. He, sadly enough, presided over the DA's worst electoral, well, I wouldn't say worst, but a slow decline in their votership. They didn't do very well in 2014. But yeah, there was a lot of issues. They fell out, and now she is the Minister of Tourism for the Good Party in the current administration.
That's wild. And everyone else is ANC through and through. This should all be shaken up.
Yeah, this is all going to be shaken up, bro. There's going to be probably DA people in this position now.
Please put someone in DA for fucking water and
Can you imagine? Like, can we just get like
just one? Just one.
But whatever you do, just make sure that it's a black person, because I swear to God, if you put a white dude in like power with ESCOM, you're just gonna have all this warring and bullshit.
You'll get assassination attempts, man. You'll get assassination attempts.
And to be honest with you, I think De Rutte was more of a hindrance than anything, because yes, he tried to do something good, but at the end of the day, all it did was just stoke up flames, and then everyone was fighting against him, and while that was happening, nothing was getting done, and everything just turned to shit.
Yeah.
I think he was too heavy-handed. I think he didn't play the politics game well enough, and he almost lost the Game of Thrones quite literally.
Literally lost his life.
He almost got Cersei Lannister right out of there.
Yeah, but anyway, to wrap things up,
that's a whole other story. But to wrap things up, it's very much up in the air at the moment. The most likely thing that we're going to see coming out of this election is a informal, maybe DA coalition with the ANC. It may even come to be that they become even more formalized with each other.
I think it's going to be an informal coalition.
Yeah. We're not going to see anything quite to the likes of this. Yeah,
it's going to be a rubber stamping of policies that the DA agrees with. And then there will be some, there will be some informal coalition, even with MK and EFF on some issues. At
some points,
I don't think MK will hold the belief that Cyril must step down and the national pardon to Zuma piece.
I don't know. These guys are pretty wild.
You think MK is just going to go rabid?
Bro, they are rabid. Like, they, I don't know what they're going to do in Parliament. Are they going to show up in suits, or are they all going to show up wearing shirts with Jay-Z's face on them? I don't know.
That's EFF.
And that is the EFF. The EFF do show up wearing, and they're always very disruptive in Parliament. But I don't think... I think the EFF, to be very honest with you, is far less of a threat to the country's democracy than the MK are. I think the MK are quite literally the literal doomsday scenario. Like, they're fucking scary, dude. Like, the EFF are literal clowns, dude. We all know this. No one takes them seriously, okay? But the MK
can actually do damage. Yeah.
They could do serious damage. They could turn around, and it's a worry. It's a really big worry.
Yeah. One thing though is for coalition governments, don't they require 60%?
It's 50% simple majority. You need 66.6% to change constitutional law. So in other words, if you wanted to change the constitution to allow expropriation without compensation, which was what the ANC have been wanting to do, well, the ANC kind of came at that one a little too late, because the only time they've ever received a majority that was a supermajority in the National Assembly was in 1999, I think, when Thabo Mbeki was in power. I think it was 69% of the vote, so that was their strongest performance in the national elections. But since then, they declined.
Okay, so it's a 50% for policy decisions, but like more fundamental
to change. You need literally 2/3 majority to do anything like that.
Okay.
And that is a very, very tall order for the current administration.
Well, then the
current forming administration.
The thing is that if MK chills out a little bit, the ANC could ally with them.
They could, but they still don't have their 66% majority.
For constitutional change that the EFF wants to do. Yeah.
The EFF's demands are quite literally impossible at this current venture. So unless the EFF, the MK, the ANC, and a bunch of other smaller parties all get together and vote to somehow change the constitution to allow for expropriation without compensation, or EWC for short, that's like a really tall. I don't see that happening anytime soon.
They don't have a super majority.
They won't have it even with the DA. So even if they come together with the DA, it'll still be like 61% majority on any passing of things. And whatever they vote alongside the DA with, you could be damn sure the MK
and the EFF
are not going to support them. God, and if you think Parliament's a joke now, I can't even imagine how much of a fucking wild night it's going to be with both the EFF jumping around and the MK doing Jacob Zuma dances.
Speaking of, I think that's the perfect thing to just end this video off on. Where's a video of the EFF just fucking jeering in Parliament?
Let's go. Let's fucking go.
Members in the gallery, you are not supposed to do that. You were told if you proceed, you would have to leave the house.
Like, what the fuck is this? It's like singing, doing whatever the fuck.
This is called disruption.
Yeah. And this just keeps on going. And like, let's skip forward 4 minutes. It's still going.
These guys, they committed to the struggle.
Order members. Members in the gallery. We repeat.
These poor court order.